That's when I start saying crazy stuff because I look and I go, oh, that's your big homie, right? And so you image yourself after a gay painter. The big homie want to look like a gay
50
painter.
Cent sparked
50
significant
Cent's-
controversy by mocking Diddy's public image, suggesting there might be unspoken truths behind the industry's silence. His comments went beyond mere appearances, directly targeting the power dynamics and secrets operating behind closed doors. As the discussion shifted into more personal territory, 50 Cent continued with a subtle comment that caught the attention of many. He remarked, "No, I don't really know more puffy juice. No more puffy juice. Just things that's not really beef though. That's just competitiveness." He downplayed any suggestion of real conflict, framing it instead as friendly competition, though his tone hinted at underlying issues. By distancing himself from Diddy's so-called puffy juice lifestyle, 50 appeared to be stepping away from a culture he once participated in. Some observers viewed this as 50 drawing a clear line between professional maneuvering and personal ethics, while others, since he was alluding to deeper matters topics few in the industry are willing to address openly. Just when it seemed the Diddy drama had reached its peak, the situation took a darker, more unusual twist. An old incident resurfaced, brought back into focus by comedian Theo Vaughn, who shared a disturbing account of a real event directly tied to Diddy.
I mean, most people remember the video. It was in 2018. He was the Trump Doral hotel shooter, and he's like a bald guy, and everyone's seen clips of him or photos of him in his like weird hospital gown with one arm out and one arm. And he like went into the Trump hotel in Doral and shot a gun in the air a bunch of times, not at anyone, and then like took over the lobby of the hotel and draped a giant American flag over it. Very like bizarre behavior. And then got into a shootout with police, got shot, ran away, surrendered, this whole thing. And it turned out that once he got, apprehended and taken in, there's this video that went on the internet that was from his like medical examination or something, but it's like a 30-minute video that a lot of people saw at the time, but everyone kind of forgot about because he was clearly insane. He was making bizarre claims like he was Diddy's sex slave and that Diddy had forced him to have sex with his girlfriend Cassie and that he had contracted an STD from them and then had sued. And then he also talks about like the Black Boule and the Illuminati playing cards, and he's like trying to warn Trump. Apparently the whole ordeal was him trying to get Trump's attention so that he could save Trump from the Illuminati.
The incident itself is almost unbelievable. In 2018, a man stormed Trump's Dow Hotel, firing shots not at individuals, but into the air, and then unfurled a large American flag across the lobby. He was eventually captured after an exchange of gunfire with the police. During his arrest, the man claimed to be Diddy's former slave, alleging that he had been forced into disturbing acts involving Cassie and that he had contracted an STD as a result. He frantically spoke of the Illuminati, the Black Bow, and insisted that his actions were meant to alert Trump to a hidden power controlling the world. At the time, many dismissed his statements as the delusions of a mentally unstable individual. However, with recent lawsuits and testimonies emerging against Diddy, some are beginning to question whether his claims were merely paranoid ramblings or warnings that were prematurely dismissed. As the discussion unfolded, Theo delved even further, turning attention to a less frequently discussed aspect. He drew connections between private jets, the lavish lifestyles of celebrities, and something far more sinister that might be lurking beneath the surface.
They're trafficking, he implies, very large amounts of drugs. Like, I would assume bricks and bricks and bricks of drugs on their private jets. And that got me thinking, and I started looking up which celebrities own private jets and how far can their private jets fly, and a lot of them do own private jets. Jay-Z's private jet is like famous or noteworthy because it has a very long range, so it can fly international, intercontinental. And so that's interesting because when you do start to look into how private jets get treated at airports and stuff like that, I mean, I'm no expert. I've never been to these private jets, but there's a lot of loopholes that are available, and you could definitely imagine that being a pretty smart way to do such a thing.
Right.
Yeah, we have a lot of history of both the feds and, say organized crime that works in the music industry, trafficking drugs.
In this part, Theo suggests that private jets could serve as a means to transport large quantities of drugs, taking advantage of lax inspections and loopholes at airports. He points out that many celebrities own private aircraft capable of international flights, using Jay-Z's jet as an example of one with long-range capacity. The suggestion is clear: if someone wanted to move illegal substances undetected, private aviation provides an ideal solution. Though Theo admits he's not an expert, his comments echo long-standing suspicions that organized crime and elements within the music industry may use luxury and celebrity status to conceal deeper illegal operations. And just when the conversation appeared focused solely on Diddy, Theo shifted the spotlight to even more influential individuals, those rarely discussed publicly. He noted that these lawsuits not only revealed shocking allegations, but also exposed an entire system that many had previously overlooked.
Were in a lot of ways my introduction to all these people. Like, I didn't know who Lucien Grange was before I read those lawsuits. I wasn't paying attention to pop culture. But the moment you read those lawsuits, it's immediately apparent, and just logically apparent, that if Diddy's throwing all these parties, Universal Music Group is in some way financially involved. But the lawsuit alleges that they're directly financially involved. And the lawsuit alleges that Lucien Grange frequently attended them and probably funded some of them, and certainly had secret meetings, or at least allegedly had secret meetings with Diddy frequently.
In his bedroom.
Yeah, in his bedroom for an hour or more. And so all of that, like, even suppose, Lucien Grange and Universal Music Group, they get taken off of Little Rod's lawsuit, which was very strange.
Very strange.
Theo explains how the lawsuits introduced him and others to figures like Lucien Grange, CEO of Universal Music Group. He points out that the legal documents don't just connect Universal to Diddy's notorious parties, but even suggest direct financial ties. More troubling are the claims that Grange personally attended these gatherings and held private meetings in Diddy's bedroom. While it remains unclear whether these meetings were strictly business or personal, their frequency and setting raised significant concerns. Interestingly, Grange and Universal were later quietly removed from one of the lawsuits. As more details emerge, Theo openly questioned these quiet withdrawals, making a chilling observation: sometimes the most powerful figures disappear from scrutiny not because they are innocent, but because they have the influence to do so.
So it's understandable that a powerful person would be taken off the lawsuit just because powerful people can get their names, protected. But in this case, like, Lucien Grange would be a star witness in any regard. Even if he wasn't guilty, he would, so they don't want any kind of scrutiny. They don't want anyone looking at Lucien. They don't want anyone looking at Christina. And in Lil Rod's lawsuit, he names the guy that was in charge of Diddy's computer system. He names the guy that was his tech guy that was in charge of all the cameras. And no one's ever spoken about him since. He's just gone.
Theo emphasizes that individuals like Lucien Grange may be shielded from legal action not necessarily due to innocence, but to prevent any unwanted attention. Even if they are not directly guilty, their involvement as witnesses could attract scrutiny that others wish to avoid. He points out how certain names, such as Christina and Diddy's tech specialist, allegedly responsible for managing his computer systems and surveillance feeds, are briefly mentioned before fading from public discussion. No interviews, no follow-up investigations, just silence. This kind of disappearance, particularly in a case of this magnitude, raises serious concerns. It suggests the existence of a quiet but powerful network working to keep specific individuals and information away from public view. After outlining this unsettling structure of control, fear, and trauma, Theo turns to the lasting psychological effects of abuse. He reflects on how addiction, violence, and manipulation, especially when they begin in youth, can profoundly alter a victim's entire perception of the world.
When you're 19 and drugs that are very quickly very addictive are involved, and very serious physical abuse is involved from that early age, and the types of abuses we're talking about, when you try to leave, when you try to wrong him at all, the ways that people describe Diddy's abuse, from that age onwards, that does something to your brain that I do not blame her for. Her complete, because, like, let's be real, Diddy's a bigger dude that could beat her senseless, that we've seen beat her senseless, right? And so if she's complicit in any of those crimes while she's, with him, that is Diddy's crime. And we have more than enough evidence to see that's Diddy's fault and Diddy's crime.
Theo discusses Cassie, who was only 19 when she became involved with Diddy, describing her experience as one of the most troubling. He highlights the dangerous combination of drugs, manipulation, and reported physical abuse that she faced from the beginning. Each attempt she made to leave or assert herself was reportedly met with severe consequences. Theo stresses that Cassie's experience wasn't just a tragic relationship, but a prolonged case of psychological and physical control. Even if she participated in questionable actions during that period, Theo argues the responsibility does not rest on her but on Diddy. The environment he created offered no real freedom, only rewarding submission and silence. For years, that silence kept the truth hidden. Following Theo's account, another voice emerged from Diddy's past. Freddie P, a former artist from Making the Band, shared his personal perspective, cutting through much of the public noise with raw emotion.
Yeah, man, that's another level right there, man. Like, a lot of that stuff for me was like, there's a lot to intake, because I try to tell people be like, well, Cassie stayed, this and that. Well, people gotta understand, like, bro, when you dealing with a person, I don't know, because a lot of people never, been in a situation, so it's best to explain. When you dealing with a person with that type of wealth who can change your life, you basically will do anything for them. I hear and everybody be saying what they saying. Well, let's say you got people like that around you now. We got people that did time for like that around him. I mean, that did time for him. It's documented.
Freddie P stands up for Cassie, explaining what many outside observers often fail to understand. He describes the immense influence held by someone as wealthy and powerful as Diddy, an influence that extends beyond money into deep psychological control. Freddie shares how those close to Diddy were willing to risk everything for him, even face prison time, because his status made him seem almost untouchable. For someone young and vulnerable like Cassie, that environment could distort love, loyalty, and fear into a nearly inescapable trap. Freddie's defense of Cassie goes beyond her situation. He exposes the entire system of silence, loyalty, and manipulation that allowed such behavior to remain hidden for years. But Freddie didn't stop there. He delved even further into how loyalty can reach extreme levels when people feel indebted to power. His comments revealed a mentality that keeps individuals silent for extended periods.
What happens is, when you rich and you got an opportunity to change people's life, people tend to do things that they would have never done. Look at Sean. Did 10 years for him. Me, I would have took a life for him. I ain't gonna lie, I told y'all that plenty of times just by the loyalty, because of what he did for me and what the opportunity was for me and my family. So I can imagine what Cassie and everybody else had to go through for so long. So many people had to keep that secret.
Freddie reflects on how Diddy's wealth and influence shaped the loyalty of those surrounding him. He mentions Shine, who served 10 years in prison for Diddy, and admits that he himself might have committed serious acts for Diddy because of the same sense of loyalty. This dynamic, Freddie suggests, is what kept many from speaking out for so long. When someone lifts you out of poverty or struggle, questioning or exposing them becomes incredibly difficult. He imagines what Cassie must have endured in that same atmosphere, surrounded by individuals willing to protect the secret at any cost. Freddie's words make one point clear: the silence surrounding Diddy wasn't accidental. It was maintained through a combination of financial dependence, conditioning, fear, and gratitude. As Freddie P continued, his reflections shifted from personal experiences to a broader, more unsettling pattern. He was no longer speaking just about Diddy, but pointing to something larger and even more disturbing.
Like, since people don't understand, like, I'm 43. Since I was in school, we've been hearing rumors, but nothing concrete like this. So when you hear this finally, and then he have to admit to this because he's trying to plead his innocence. So things that's already documented, he know the feds got evidence of, he have to admit to it in front of his family, in front of his daughters, in front of everybody. You get what I'm saying? And for so long, so many people kept that secret. I don't know how. Like Wendy Williams, I say this because I say it's a repetitive cycle of mysterious mysterious things that happen to people that know about this situation before we did. When you look at Wendy Williams, it's like they wiped her whole memory. Justin Bieber, half of his face was gone. Everybody if you look right now, Justin Bieber eating pizza, he's sending messages. Everybody know about Pizzagate. When you go through Instagram, once you get knowledge of what's going on in Pizzagate, then you go back and do your history of how long they've been doing it right in front of our face. It's not only Puffy, it's a culture. It's the people that's around them. It's Hollywood. It's Hollyweird.
Freddie explains that rumors about Diddy's conduct have circulated for decades, even dating back to his school days. But with ongoing lawsuits, confessions, and federal investigations, those rumors have now shifted into undeniable realities. Freddie describes how Diddy is being forced to confront parts of the truth, not just publicly, but within his own family, as the mounting evidence leaves little room for denial. He then delves into a broader discussion referencing unusual incidents involving public figures who may have possessed too much knowledge, such as Wendy Williams, Justin Bieber, and others. Freddie mentions memory loss, facial paralysis, and coded messages connecting these occurrences to what many believe is a secretive elite culture within Hollywood. His message is direct. Diddy is not acting alone. This situation involves power, control, and a hidden culture in Hollywood that has remained visible yet unchallenged for far too long. Freddie's revelations extend beyond the music industry or personal suffering. He explores what he believes to be the spiritual and psychological foundation of the entire system.
It's who they are. They belong to that. I don't know why people be seeming so amazed with what's going on right now. They belong to Satan. You get what I'm saying? That's the agendas they push is in your face. So some people just have to understand that when you're dealing with a person like that, you tend to do anything for them, because if you don't, you go back to nothing. And the longer you're around a person, the further you come from, you remove yourself from nothing. What I mean is, you don't want, if I go to the 12th grade, I don't want to quit school. That's like everybody didn't understand with the band. Okay, the more I did, I walked for cheesecake, I did this, so yeah, it was humiliating, but I'm getting closer and closer to my goal, and that's probably how she felt and all these other women felt dealing with that situation. I'm getting closer and closer to the promises he made. I'm getting close, so yeah, I don't want to walk away after I don't, all right, you accepted one in your mouth. The second one, you might feel a little different about what you like. I done took 1 and 2, before you know it, it's 3, 4, 5, and it's behavior.
Freddie voices his belief that some individuals at the top, like Diddy, are not just powerful but are advancing harmful and destructive agendas. He plainly states that they serve Satan, implying their power stems from something far more sinister than fame or wealth. He explains that people caught in this environment, especially women like Cassie, don't stay simply for luxury. Leaving would mean returning to nothing. Over time, the situation becomes normalized. The more degrading acts they experience, the more they rationalize it as part of the price for their success. As Freddie continues, his words grow more personal, examining how individuals justify enduring pain when survival feels at stake. He not only addresses Cassie's situation, but also criticizes the broader system and persona that Diddy constructed to maintain his reputation and keep his secrets hidden.
So when people say she stood up, she took it willingly, yes, some nights, a bit, like I said, a woman gonna do what her man do. You know, what type of nigga, depending on what type of nigga she got. Every female, that's just who they are. And if you got money, they times 10. So I feel like it goes back to the other interview we did. A lot of people got hurt trying to keep Puff secret. Puffy could have dodged an indictment if he had just been himself. But being himself didn't give him the key to the thugs. It didn't give him the key to the men that attracted him. It didn't give him the key to the men that attracted Clive and all his friends.
Just when it seemed the accounts couldn't become more unsettling, another former making the band artist, Chopper, stepped forward with a disturbing recollection. He shared a moment he had kept private for years, believing that no one would have taken him seriously at the time.
That's a good one. Double-edged sword. Number one, you know, I feel like the whole Cassie situation with the Kid Cudi situation, you know, I feel like that's understandable. Women gonna do what they do, period. Now, the thing that I want to get clear is, with my Art of Dialogue interviews, you hear me, things that I said, you hear me, back in the G, I probably couldn't even say it because nobody would have believed me, you know. But now that people understand that I was keeping it real, you heard me, keeping it G. When I told people, when I was in Floyd Mayweather's strip club and I seen Cassie, and she's like, Chop, come here. And she told me that Diddy blew up Kid Cudi car. It's ironic and funny that when it come out now, you dig, everybody like, wow.
In this segment, Chopper recalls a private conversation he had with Cassie years ago at Floyd Mayweather's strip club. According to him, Cassie directly told him that Diddy had blown up Kid Cudi's car, an incident that has recently resurfaced. and shocked the public. Chopper points out the irony that, at the time, people dismissed his warnings, but now, with lawsuits and new evidence emerging, everything he said is starting to make sense. He uses this moment to emphasize how many within the industry have been aware of these allegations for years, but fear, power, and disbelief kept them from speaking out. What once seemed like mere gossip now appears to be part of a much darker narrative coming together. After sharing what Cassie had told him, Chopper continues, expressing how it feels to see these events finally becoming public. While he acknowledges that the truth is emerging, he also raises questions about loyalty, timing, and motivation behind the revelations.
Y'all gonna see it now, you're gonna say, wow, everything Chop's saying, bro, he's telling the truth. So how I feel about it is this. I didn't think Kid Cudi needed to be there. You understand? I feel like Diddy has already been crucified enough. You heard me? To the point where he didn't need Kid Cudi to do that to him, because all Kid Cudi did as a black man is let these people know that, you know, he's capable of doing these things. I didn't think Kid Cudi needed to be there. I didn't, you know, as a black man, you know, as a woman, as a black woman, or just a woman, period, that's understandable. But as a black man, you don't go and kick a man while he's down.
Chopper reflects on his mixed feelings regarding Kid Cudi's decision to confirm the car bombing story. Although he stands by what Cassie told him, he questions whether it was necessary for Cudi to speak out at this particular moment, especially since Diddy is already facing heavy criticism. From Chopper's perspective, when someone is already under intense public scrutiny, adding more accusations feels unnecessary, particularly when it comes from another black man. He distinguishes this from women coming forward, acknowledging that their experiences often warrant speaking out. But in Cudi's case, he views it as adding pressure to an already dire situation. Chopper's reaction evolves from disappointment to full skepticism as he begins to question not only the timing but also the credibility of the entire testimony.
And I felt like it was allegedly, because even this, you know, and this is a real source for my people who went to court. Shout out to my dog Rennie, you heard me? Just got off the phone with him. He went to court today because he keep me updated on what's going on, you know? And he told me that everything was, Kid Cudi kept saying was allegedly, which means I have no valid proof that Diddy actually did that. Because when Kid Cudi called Diddy, he said Diddy was just calm, he was cool, he was collective, and Diddy was like, what are you talking about? So as a black man, and this has nothing to do with race, but period, as a black man, I thought it was a sucker move for Kid Cudi to go there and testify.
Chopper explains that based on what a close friend who attended the court proceedings shared, much of Kid Cudi's testimony was presented using the word allegedly. According to Chopper, that wording weakens the accusation, especially in the absence of concrete evidence. He adds that when Cudi reportedly confronted Diddy, Diddy responded with calmness and confusion, denying any involvement. To Chopper, this reaction didn't suggest guilt, but instead raised doubts. Chopper views Cudi's testimony as unstable, describing it as a calculated move not because the truth shouldn't be exposed, but because making such claims without definitive proof, especially while Diddy faces heavy public criticism, seems opportunistic. After challenging the credibility of Kid Cudi's statements, Chopper takes a more thoughtful approach, acknowledging the difficulty of judging Cudi, who comes from a different background.
Because I know they didn't subpoena him. I think that he willingly went up there and did some shit. But on the other end of the double-edged sword, Kid Cudi, he never glamorized gangster. He never glamorized thug. So at the end of the day, you know, he's a poet and he's an artist. And he is also a Samaritan. So how can we as the black minority people feel a way when a Samaritan get up there and do that? So that's why I say, you know, it's a double-edged sword, is because where I'm from, that's not right. Because you don't kick a man while he's down, especially a black man coming from nothing.
Chopper emphasizes that Kid Cudi was not subpoenaed. He chose to testify voluntarily. While Chopper still sees this as a strategic decision within his own worldview, he recognizes that Cudi does not come from the same street culture. Cudi never Claimed to be a gangster or street figure, he is a poet and artist who operates by different principles. Chopper admits that, from a street perspective, such testimony can feel like betrayal.
But on the other end of my other conscience, he quite didn't do anything wrong because he's a Samaritan. He's not a thug. He's not a gangster. He don't live a street life. So I guess that goes how it goes, or that gets played how it goes. You understand? Because there is no right and wrong with that situation. Because you could distinguish a Samaritan from a street person. Period. So I feel like Kid Cudi is a Samaritan, and at the end of the day, if you feel like, you heard me, he had the right to do that there, then so be it. Because as a human being and as a Samaritan, if I wasn't raised and came up as an adolescent in the world that I came up in, and someone done me that, it's them too.
This story extends beyond Diddy, Cassie, or Kid Cudi. It's ultimately about power, silence, fear, and the individuals willing to speak up when it truly matters. From Freddie P to Chopper to Theo Vaughn, each person contributes a different piece to a much larger puzzle. Some speak from personal experiences, others from observation, but the message remains consistent. Something dark has existed in plain sight for years. Whether driven by loyalty, fear, or external pressures, the cost of silence has been significant. Now, the truth is beginning to emerge. Was Cassie simply a victim or a participant in a dangerous game? Are we only beginning to uncover a larger Hollywood cover-up? How much more remains hidden behind fame and wealth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content like this.